property business. We're in the FTSE. We have about 16 billion pounds worth of assets that we manage.
Right.
We're in the office and the retail business, and what we do is we basically provide prime quality office and retail locations for our customers, and make sure that we're giving them something that is fit for their needs. It's pretty broad, so it covers off finance business partnering, making sure that finance is supporting the business decisions in the appropriate way, all the stuff you might expect from a core finance team: reporting, financial controls, all the operations, paying the bills, budgeting, forecasting. So it's a pretty broad-ranging role. I think it's one where there's recognition from both the business and the finance team that perhaps more needs to be done to work together. And I think if I look back 12 months ago, the two businesses were the two parts of the business were interacted where they needed to, but really I think that I saw the potential for a lot more working together that could be done, and that there could be a lot more value that we as a finance team added. And I think over time we've been on a journey with the business in getting some common goals together. I think one of the things I recognised quite early on was that it was important for us to be a little bit more embedded in the decision process, the ability to kind of influence and discuss matters up front, and that from doing that we would have be able to add more value along the way. So I guess we've moved from quite a sort of transactional, can you give me this piece of information, to how do we work on this decision together more. That's the journey we're taking. People was and the quality of the people, the strength of the relationships was by far the single most important nut to crack, I think, in this challenge.
Right.
Because really, I think that it was only really by earning and proving ourselves and earning the respect as a team that we could start to embed ourselves, because we had to draw the business towards us by proving that we could add value. Well, I think that by working together more closely, I think just the idea that you come to much better decisions by having effective by combining different thought processes of different teams together. Ultimately we would achieve a better result for the business. And the finance function has got great insights it can provide if we're engaged.
Yes. Because
of our expertise and our insight, we can help maximise the financial output of any decision, and ultimately that's going to be good for our shareholders. I think the team that I had in place was very experienced in terms of understanding the business. A lot of them have been here at British Land for quite a period of time, but they've been quite internally focused, and as a result hadn't really had a lot of experience at people leadership, and communicating as well. So one of the important strands in making sure that the finance team were along this journey was really setting out a vision, which we'd started to pull together as a leadership group. But the second phase of that was really getting the whole of the department, the 70 odd people in finance, behind that vision, and I think getting people on board and getting an event where we launched this vision and communicated it clearly and got people engaged in it was going to be the next step. Perhaps the relative degree of sort of inexperience of the team in communicating. I think when I started to talk with the team around this was something that we should be doing, I think there was a definite recognition and support that it was a good idea to do. But I picked up on the sort of degree of nervousness from the team about sort of standing up in front of people and doing this, and also how were they going to it's very easy when you're communicating to kind of have death by PowerPoint, and so that was something I was quite clear up front that I didn't want. I wanted people to have a very interactive experience and have the ability to contribute. So it was important, I think, to give people the confidence in the first place that they could stand up and feel confident in communicating what they had to say, but also that the style and variety of that communication was done in a way that felt very interactive. So it was giving the team more strings to their bow and making the event successful, really. Well, I think so. Dexter helped us in a couple of ways. Well, actually, three ways I'd characterise his help. I think the first thing was thinking about the content of the messaging. So I think, given that people were quite clear, and I think in their own minds around the things that they had to achieve, but how was that going to land with the audience? What did we want to leave them taking away from the event? So getting a focus on sort of clarity of messaging and thought was really important, and we went through processes where people worked individually with Dexter on clarifying those messages, and then had sort of plenary sessions rehearsing it beforehand to make sure we kind of tested it out, and so that was all very helpful in making sure that we kind of what landed was appropriate and right.
Right.
And then thinking about the style, the tone, the actual delivery, the communication, and Dexter really helped. I think particularly in the one-to-one work he did with each of the team members. Obviously everyone was in a different place slightly with their own communication styles, and Dexter gave us a variety of tools and techniques we could use to and people were. What happened as a result was people were presenting in very different ways, and it kept the day very pacey and energised.
Right.
So, for example, we'd people kind of showing video clips and various events in their lives, which had an analogy to what was happening on the day, to various images being used, and it was just it was very varied and sort of mixed events in the day, which helped kept the pace. And I think the final thing was Dexter actually came along to the day itself, and helped provide sort of the link between each of the sessions, and actually helped facilitate a couple of the group discussion events as well. So I think it was the skills that he brought in, this again his energy, his pace, the way he'd listen and draw people out, and got people feeling quite comfortable with him quite quickly. Those were all things which were very helpful in kind of making sure the day itself was effective. I mean, it was interesting the way it evolved, and if anything, actually, the process of pulling it together, I think there was a certain amount of realisation which happened gradually throughout the team, because this is quite a new thing to a lot of the team, and then suddenly, because and I characterise this, and I said this at the time, if you compare what we went into in our rehearsals before the day, and we did spend half a day rehearsing this event, to what was actually delivered on the day itself a week later, it was very, very different, and so I think the impact was quite significant. I think the way that we left people feeling and the energy we created on the start of our journey 12 months ago was very different as a result of the work we put in. It was quite tangible. I think what we had was going into a rehearsal, we had a lot of PowerPoint slides, over communication without thinking about which points to emphasise, not much sort of variety in the way people delivered, and the delivery style, in some cases, for people that hadn't presented before, you might imagine it was not particularly polished. So these all these things moved. I'd almost describe it as a gradual movement and then a sudden one, because there was a very big shift as we went through that rehearsal process. They did a great job, and I think that they themselves, it gave them a lot of confidence, not only from doing that event but going forwards as well, because what was good about the event was that people had, it wasn't just a theoretical training, there was an end product of having this day, and so people could learn the theory and put it into practice straight away, and so I think the fact that it was successful and we had very good feedback,
right,
that gave people the confidence to take that forward. Looking now 12 months on, I think we've got a very different department and sense from how things were 12 months ago. The energy levels are much higher. People are much more engaged. We have an environment now where we're trying to embed ourselves in the business. There's an attitudinal shift. There's behavioural changes. There's changes to how we do things to make it easier for the business to do finance with. And now I feel it's interesting. Sort of 12 months ago, you almost, as a leader, you can feel in quite a lonely place if you haven't got your team behind you. And now I feel there's a real recognition and buy-in to that vision, to the point where people are contributing, coming up with ideas and innovations, and you can really see the difference. And I think this event was really, I think, the start point for making these things happen more widely in the team, and I think it set the right environment for how we took things forward. Well, I think that for a start, we've now got finance actually sitting, embedded in the teams, which has been quite a big step for us. And initially we met a lot of resistance to that idea. So to have that, to be in a place now where we have that is a massive step forward in itself. I think that finance are getting much more consulted up front in decisions, and we're not we're only 12 months in, so this is a change which is going to happen over time. I wouldn't profess that we're there yet, but there's been a massive change, and I think that the projects that we've now got forward, thinking about how we work together to define ways in which finance can add value, and set, jointly set objectives. These kinds of things were things that we were so far away from 12 months ago. So a lot's changed.